cold beam cuts across his hand as he lifts my wallet with a smile he shouldn't have. The light from the hallway door frames him in a way that makes the moment feel staged, as if he timed his entrance to land exactly when my breath stalled. I stay by the cold doorknob, feeling the metal bite into my palm, its temperature anchoring me more than his voice ever could. He says he found it near the stairwell, his tone drifting between playfulness and something too careful, too prearranged, like he rehearsed the line in an empty room before delivering it to me. My eyes travel to his fingertips, pressing into the leather, the pressure lingering a shade too long for a simple retrieval, and I feel the edges of the room shift in a quiet, almost imperceptible way. The silence between us trembles with its own pulse thin and stretched, vibrating beneath the steady glow of the hallway bulb that flickers once, then settles as if choosing sides. I keep my voice steady when I ask where exactly he found it, but the question barely leaves my lips before he rushes in with another explanation smoother than the first, the kind of smoothness a person practices in the mirror when no one is listening. His smile doesn't reach his eyes. It lands on his mouth and stops there, stiffening into position like a photograph developing under dim chemicals. He steps closer, holding the wallet out to me, yet I watch the way his shoulders lift slightly, as if ready to adjust his story depending on how I react. I take it from him, and the weight is wrong too, warm, too settled, as though it hasn't been lost at all, only relocated. My thoughts begin to narrow, focusing on how he never asked if I'd been worried or if anything else was missing. Instead, he hovers by the doorway with an air of expectation, his jaw angled in the half-light that isolates one side of his face in near shadow. His smile is too confident for someone returning something he claims to have just found. I want to ask him whether he's certain about the timing, whether he's positive he saw it where he says he did. But the words get caught in the small, thick silence expanding around us. I notice how he leans his shoulder against the wall, adopting the posture of someone who wants to appear relaxed while monitoring every shift in my expression. The hall light flickers again, a soft but sharp interruption that slices the moment with a thin, white stutter, and his eyes move toward it briefly before snapping back to me. He keeps talking, stacking explanations, layering tiny details that don't quite settle, reminding me of the way dust floats in sunbeams visible only when the light exposes it. I run my thumb along the wallet's edge and feel a faint unseen tension inside myself, coil tighter like a breath held too long. Nathan steps forward again, offering a final reassurance about how lucky it is that he found it before someone else did, his voice dipping into a softness that feels transported from another conversation entirely. I realize in that moment that he isn't comforting me. He's guiding the narrative, shaping it, tilting it toward whatever version of truth he wants me to accept. The door behind him creaks slightly as a draft slips through, brushing cold air against my skin, stirring a shiver I can't suppress. He interprets the shiver as fear or confusion, or maybe both, and uses it to keep speaking as though filling the silence will steady the room. My thoughts gather into one clean line. He is too calm, too prepared, too certain, and certainty is the one emotion people can't fake without practice. The air between us thickens with the weight of that realization, quiet but powerful, like a pressure drop before a storm. I step back, putting a breath of distance between us, the cold doorknob still in my grip, its metal keeping me grounded in the rising tension that neither of us acknowledges outright. Something in this moment is pretending to be harmless. And as the hallway bulb flickers once more, casting a jittered beam across the back of his hand, the truth presses closer, silent, and waiting like a shadow deciding which direction to fall. I'm Elena Ward, 34, a hospital billing coordinator from Baltimore, Maryland, and the morning after the wallet incident moves in slow, deliberate shadows as I step into the kitchen, where the flickering bulb blinks once above me, dropping a thin tremor of dim light across the counter, as though the room itself is deciding how much truth I'm allowed to see at a time. And before I can steady my breath, the bulb snaps bright again, catching the metallic rim of a glass near the sink and drawing my gaze toward the faint glow trembling along its edge. A thin reflection trembles across the counter, small enough to ignore, but sharp enough to lodge into the back of my mind like a warning disguised as coincidence, pulling me into a quiet moment where everything feels slightly off-tempo. Nathan stands by the fridge, the morning air around him settled into a false calm that holds too perfectly, as though it's been arranged instead of lived, and when he turns toward me, his smile carries the same softness he used when returning my wallet, a softness that feels more like cushioning than comfort, something placed between us to control the landing of my thoughts before they hit the truth beneath them. He asks if I slept well in a tone that pretends not to notice how long I watched him last night, how carefully I measured each shift in his voice, each blink, each pause. He waits for my answer, as if calibrating something invisible, adjusting himself by watching how my eyes move. I tell him I slept fine, though the truth sits under my ribs like a small, unwelcome weight, and he nods too quickly, almost relieved as if the conversation has passed an internal checkpoint. Only he understands. He moves closer, brushing the back of his hand against mine, in a gesture that feels strangely timed, as though it's meant to interrupt the thought forming in my head rather than offer connection. I pull back gently, pretending to adjust the strap of my bag, but my eyes follow the way he places his keys on the counter, each movement precise, controlled, deliberate enough to make me feel as if he's avoiding one particular spot on the counter's surface. His silence contains a tightness he's working hard to hide, a low hum beneath his words that gives me the sense he's listening for something not from me, but from the environment, some indicator of whether the narrative he offered about the wallet is still holding. The flickering bulb dims again, dipping the room into a pale, shifting half-light that touches his jawline and draws a sharp line between the honest parts of the morning and the parts he's fabricating. His calmness feels rehearsed, as if each word is chosen to steer me away from a truth he's already preparing excuses for. When the bulb brightens this time, Nathan glances up at it with a stiff momentary tension crossing his face, just long enough for me to see uncertainty crack through the polished ease he performs. He mentions the wallet again, unprompted, saying he's glad he found it before someone else picked it up, and the sentence doesn't feel like a reassurance. It feels like a place-setter, a line he needs in the air to keep the larger lie balanced. I nod, letting him think the topic is safe, but my thoughts are collecting in the corners of the room, like settling dust, shaping themselves into questions. I'm not ready to speak aloud. Why did he hold the wallet so confidently if he'd just found it? Why did the leather feel warm? Why did his explanation shift, depending on which way the light hit his face? I pour coffee to ground myself, and the quiet drip of it into the mug fills the tense pockets of silence between us. He watches the movement more than he watches me, his eyes fixed on my hands as though gauging whether they tremble, whether I'm questioning him, whether the story he constructed is beginning to fray. He asks if I'm running late, and I tell him no, though I wish I were because the kitchen feels smaller than it did yesterday, the air thicker, the edges of the room narrowing toward a point I'm not ready to face. The flickering bulb gives one long, stuttering blink, just as Nathan mentions that forgetfulness has been creeping into my routine lately, that stress can cause people to misplace things, that it happens to everyone. His voice is gentle, soft-spoken, almost sympathetic, but I feel a cold thread winding quietly beneath the words, an insinuation slipping between syllables. I sip my coffee without responding, letting the bitterness settle on my tongue, grounding me in the parts of myself that aren't confused or uncertain or afraid. The brief reflection on the counter shivers once more when he steps past it, and I can't tell if the movement is from the light or from him brushing the edge of the truth too closely. The morning continues in quiet motions, filled with small sounds, the scrape of a chair, the low hum of the fridge, the uneven flicker of the bulb that casts thin lines of shifting light across the floor, like a signal that keeps failing to transmit clearly. His voice softens each time I drift toward silence, as if he's afraid of what I might remember if I stay quiet long enough. I finish my coffee, slip my bag over my shoulder, and step toward the door, feeling the faint weight in my chest press inward as Nathan calls after me, telling me to try not to lose anything today. The comment lands lightly, almost jokingly, but in the flicker of the hallway light behind him, it feels like a quiet boundary he's drawing around what he expects me to believe. I step into the hallway with the sense that something small has already begun to split beneath the surface. The moment trails after me like a thin, trembling line of reflection. The day drags with the kind of heaviness that makes every sound feel padded, every movement a half-second delayed. And by the time I step back into the apartment, the late afternoon light spills through the blinds in fractured strips that carve thin bars across the floor. I push the door closed behind me and exhale into the quiet. The air smells faintly of detergent and metal, the kind of sterile calm that feels manufactured rather than lived in. As I set my bag down, the glass reflection on the cabinet door catches my eye again, warped slightly, like someone brushed their hand across its surface and left the outline disturbed. My reflection bends at the edges, thinning into something unfamiliar, and for a moment, I stand there watching it shimmer in a way that makes my chest tighten. The house looks undisturbed, but there's a strange tension in the way the light rests on objects, as if everything is waiting for my attention. On the dining table sits a small rectangle of paper, neatly folded in half. It rests there with the odd confidence of something that wasn't forgotten, but placed. I move toward it slowly, each footstep soft against the wood floor. When I pick it up, the weight of the paper feels different cold, as though it came from outside or from the inside of a pocket pressed against someone's skin. I unfold it. A receipt. The print is slightly smudged but still clear enough to read. Receipt Nashard ZL 47. Time 03:18. The timestamp punches through me with a quiet, precise jolt. 3:18 in the morning. Nathan told me he was asleep, then restless, but in bed, claiming the noise outside had woken him briefly before he drifted off again. The man who wakes at every small sound. The man who checks the locks twice before lying down. The man who would never step out alone that late, at least not in the version of him he's carefully built for me. My thumb presses into the corner of the paper, and it gives beneath the pressure softening, as if acknowledging the truth it carries. A thin chill climbs through my ribs. I picture him standing at some counter at 3 a.m., ordering something or picking something up, the pale glow of a convenience store or late-night diner illuminating his face. A place he didn't mention, a time he couldn't explain, a moment he intended to hide. The apartment door clicks. I fold the receipt quickly and slip it into my pocket before I turn toward the sound. Nathan steps inside with a soft thud of boots brushing imaginary dust from his sleeves. His eyes meet mine for only a second before darting toward the table, then back to me. That flick, the tiny half-second detour, lands sharper than the timestamp itself. "You're home early," he says, closing the door with a controlled quietness that feels like a tactic rather than courtesy. "Yeah," I answer, trying to keep my tone neutral. I wasn't feeling well. Concern registers in his expression, but it's the type that lives only on the surface, too polished, too symmetrical. He walks toward me with the slight tilt in his posture he gets when he's analyzing something behind his own words. The room seems to recalibrate around his presence, shifting its balance. His gaze slides back toward the table. I follow the movement and realize he's checking whether the receipt is still there. The cool line of understanding settles into me. He hadn't expected me home so soon. He hadn't expected the quiet to betray him. "What's wrong?" he asks, voice soft, measured. Nothing, I reply, but my pulse taps against the folded paper in my pocket. He steps closer, lifting his hand to brush a loose strand of hair from my cheek, but the gesture feels misaligned, like someone pressing a comforting hand to a bruise they caused. I step back only half a pace, enough for him to feel it. "You seem tense," he murmurs. "It's been a long day." His jaw moves slightly, tightening for a fraction of a second, before smoothing back into that curated calmness. He senses something is off, but he doesn't know what yet. His eyes scan my face as if searching for the flaw in his plan, the thread that might be coming undone. I walk to the kitchen, pretending to check the mail on the counter. The reflection from the cabinet follows me, bending in the corner of my eye, distorting my shape into a slivered silhouette. It feels like the room is trying to tell me something about angles and truths, and the way light bends when someone stands between honesty and deception. Nathan stays near the doorway, watching me with the stillness of a man who's trying to decide whether to speak or wait. Waiting for him is strategic. "Did you find anything unusual today?" he asks finally. The question lands like a misstep. Unusual, I echo, keeping my voice steady as I sift through envelopes. Yeah, you seemed distracted when I came in. I raise an eyebrow, glancing at him over my shoulder. Just tired? He nods, forcing a small smile that doesn't crease the corners of his eyes. Okay, I just want to make sure everything's all right. The sentence carries a weight beneath it, a subtle probe he's trying to disguise as care. His hand drifts toward the table, instinctively fingers brushing the wood in the exact spot where the receipt used to lie. When he looks up and realizes it's gone, something flickers in his gaze, a shift too quick for most people to notice, but not too quick for someone who has begun to study the small fractures in him. He recovers instantly, but I saw it. The truth hits me quietly. He wasn't ready for the lie to be challenged. He steps closer again, his voice gentling. If something's bothering you, you can tell me. The irony coils tight inside my stomach. I stare at him for a long moment, the edges of the room blurring as my thoughts sharpen. The glass reflection behind him catches his outline, bending it slightly, the way truth warps when someone tries to reshape it. I'm fine, I say, letting the lie settle between us. But my fingers press against the receipt in my pocket, and the crinkle of the paper feels like the first crack in something that pretended to be whole. The neighborhood gathering sits under a wash of warm porch lights that stretch long shadows across the cracked pavement, each one bending and thinning with the movement of people who talk in soft clusters. The air smells like grilled vegetables and late autumn chill layered with the low hum of conversations too polite to hold any real weight. I stay near the railing at the edge of the porch, my fingers barely grazing the metallic shadow it casts along the boards, thin and cold, like the outline of something waiting to be recognized. Nathan moves effortlessly among the neighbors, offering smiles that look practiced beneath the dim glow. He laughs at small jokes, leans in just enough to seem attentive, and performs a version of himself that no one else seems to question. I watch from the periphery, my thoughts orbiting the receipt in my pocket, and the way his eyes had flicked toward the table earlier with a panic he smothered too quickly. Damon stands a few feet away, hands tucked into his jacket, listening more than speaking. His eyes scan the group with the quiet precision of someone used to noticing the subtle things people leave unintentionally exposed. When he catches my glance, he gives a small nod, acknowledging without intruding. I take a slow breath, steadying myself. The night feels too fragile, it seems visible beneath the porch light. My phone buzzes, a short vibration sharp in the quiet. I check the screen expecting a message from work, or maybe Marcy, but instead I see her name attached to something else, a screenshot. The image expands across the screen. Screenshot ref S19A, timestamped 2214. The moment freezes in my hands before the air does. It's Nathan in a bar. I've never seen his arm around the back of a booth laughing with someone just out of frame. The lighting is unmistakable neon blue along the wall, and the grin on his face wide enough to reveal the truth he'd kept tucked behind softer lies. He told me he was home at that time. Asleep. Restless, but home. The noise around me dims. The porch light flickers once overhead, soft and slow, and the metallic shadow stretches across my feet like a warning. My breath catches, settling somewhere in the hollow between my ribs. I feel the warmth drain from my face and hear the distant buzz of someone saying my name, but it lands dull and unfocused. Damon glances toward me again, more sharply this time. He tracks the shift in my expression like someone finding the fault line beneath the surface just before an earthquake. Nathan notices the change too. He disentangles himself gently from a conversation with an older couple, that same well-practiced calmness settling back onto his shoulders. His eyes meet mine, and I see the moment he registers the phone in my hand, the slight widening of his pupils, the tightening at the corner of his mouth before he smooths it away. "Everything okay?" he asks, stepping closer. His voice is too soft, too measured. Each word lands like it's being placed purposefully on the ground between us. I swallow, keeping the screen angled away. "I just got a message." "Oh," he asks with a lightness that doesn't touch his eyes. "From who?" The air feels tight around us, pulsing with unspoken things. Conversations nearby taper slightly, as if some invisible thread has tugged them toward attention. My fingers curl around the phone, steadying myself. "Marcy," I answer. A flicker. Barely there. "Is she all right?" he asks. "She sent a photo." Nathan pauses. A controlled inhale. His posture shifts not visibly, but internally, the way a cord tightens before snapping. The porch light blinks again, casting a thin metallic glint across his jawline. A photo he repeats too casually. Yeah. I hold the silence deliberately, letting the words sink. A screenshot. People might not be listening, but they feel the tension. Bodies angle subtly. Damon takes a step closer, but doesn't interrupt. He stands like a witness who knows he might be called on later. Nathan offers a nervous laugh, light dismissive. Probably something funny from work. You know how she is. But his right hand twitches. Barely. And the metallic shadow across the railing seems to tremble with it. Want to show me, he asks. There's something in the question, a tremor beneath the surface. A threat tied with ribbon. Why, I ask quietly. He freezes for half a second, mask flickering. Because if something's wrong, I want to fix it. The sincerity rings hollow thin like a wire pulled too tight. I tilt the phone slightly, not enough for him to see the image, but enough to see his eyes fixate on it, searching for clues. His breath catches so faintly, I almost miss it. It's nothing I say, just interesting. The word hits him like a thrown pebble, small but sharp. His smile stiffens. Show me, he repeats lower this time. No. The air fractures. The word slices the quiet, sending a ripple through the group around us. Several people glance over now. Damon's posture straightens. Nathan steps closer, lowering his voice. Elena, let me see the photo. I raise my gaze to meet his. His expression is calm, unnaturally calm. The kind of calm someone uses when they're afraid the conversation is about to expose something they can't control. What bar were you at last night? I ask softly. The question lands like a dropped glass. Conversations around us stutter. Someone whispers something to someone else. The porch light flickers a third time, sending the metallic shadow across the boards like a silent accusation. Nathan's jaw tightens, the muscle flexing beneath the quiet. You're being paranoid, he murmurs. Am I? I counter. He swallows. A thin, controlled movement. I told you I was home. The lie hangs between us, fragile and exposed. Damon steps forward, not intruding, just close enough to show presence. A witness taking position. Nathan notices. His shoulders stiffen. His voice lowers into something sharper. Elena, you're making a scene. I'm not, I whisper, but the truth is I am quietly, precisely, unavoidably. He reaches for the phone. Instinctively, I step back. Conversations around us hush the night, folding into a single tense pause. Nathan freezes, mid-motion, hand suspended in the thin wash of porch light. Don't I say? His hand drops. His expression splits for a fraction of a second. Fear, anger, calculation, all flickering beneath the mask like shadows shifting behind thin cloth. He recovers with a controlled exhale. Let's go home, he says. But the moment is carved now, public, undeniable, witnessed, a crack too wide for him to mend. The night holds its breath, and for the first time, I'm not the one trying to keep the peace. The apartment feels different the moment we step inside, as though the tension from the gathering has seeped into the walls, clinging to the corners like residue from a storm that hasn't yet passed. I close the door behind us, and the faint click echoes longer than it should. Nathan walks ahead without looking back, loosening the collar of his jacket, as though he needs room to breathe. I trail behind him with a slower rhythm, every step guided by a new heaviness settling in my chest. The air carries that too clean scent, again detergent metal, and something faintly chemical, something that reminds me of rooms that have been wiped down to erase what happened inside them. He heads straight to the kitchen, performing motions with mechanical ease, placing his keys on the counter, adjusting the fruit bowl, smoothing the dish towel. It's the choreography of someone trying to reclaim normalcy by force. But the moment he aligns the towel's edge, I see a tremor, quick, nearly invisible but real, panic slipping through the cracks of his performance. I stand near the console table, letting my fingers hover above the small stack of papers there, until one sheet catches my attention. A thin page with a sharp corner, lifted upward, bending like it's been handled too many times. I pull it free, and the paper edge cuts the side of my finger in a quick, precise sting. The pain is small but startling, sharper than expected, grounding me in the moment. A dot of blood rises bright against the pale fibers. I press the small wound with my thumb, feeling the throb of it, the truth of it. Something real in a night full of distortions. Nathan looks over when he hears my breath hitch. "Are you okay?" he asks, voice soft. Too soft. "Paper cut," I say quietly. He moves to step toward me before hesitating, recalibrating his expression. "Let me see. It's fine." I fold the paper halfway, hiding the section I hadn't yet read. He lingers a second longer, eyes narrowing not with concern, but calculation, before he turns toward the fridge and pulls out a bottle of water. The moment stretches. I walk the paper to the dining table, flipping it over slowly so he can't see the front. The cut still pulses my heartbeat, echoing through the sensitive skin. I finally examine the page. It's a printout of our shared home calendar, the one we both update. But here, the time blocks don't align. A tiny sliver is missing between 2107 and 21008, a gap only 1 minute wide, yet impossible to ignore. An erasure. A mistake from someone in too much of a hurry. Or a deliberate cut in the timeline. Nathan was so adamant about staying home, about being restless in bed, about hearing things in the alley. But this page says he changed something, or removed something, or masked something. The missing minute pulses as sharply as the cut on my finger. "You okay?" he asks again when I go quiet. The question floats toward me like a test. I nod without looking up. "Just tired." "You've had a long day," he says with a softness that feels scripted, like the practiced empathy of someone who needs to prevent the conversation from turning toward the truth. He steps closer. I feel the heat of him before I see him, the air shifting in that subtle way it does when someone is standing too close too soon. I straighten. "Nathan," I say, keeping my tone light, "what were you doing around 9 last night?" His expression flickers barely, but enough. "I told you. I couldn't sleep. I stepped outside for a minute." "Around 9. Yes. Why?" He peers at me with the careful, inspecting gaze of someone trying to gauge how much I know. I hold the calendar in my hand, the missing minute hidden between my fingers. "Just felt like you were gone longer than a minute." He smiles. "You're stressed." "Maybe. And your memory is scattered lately." The shift in his voice hits me hard. A subtle accusation. A gentle rewriting. Gaslighting in soft tones. I lift the calendar page, slightly ready to confront him with it, but I stop myself. The cut on my finger burns, as if reminding me to stay steady, to choose the right moment. Evidence is only power when placed correctly. Instead, I say, "You didn't hear any noise in the alley tonight." "No," he answers. "But last night you did." He tilts his head, eyes narrowing. "Elena, what are you really asking me?" The air between us hums with tension. The fridge's low buzz fills the silence. I press the paper tighter in my hand, feeling the small sting again as the edge digs into my cut. I just want to understand. Understand what? His voice slips, just a fraction cracking in the space where certainty used to be. I walk past him, slow and steady, toward the living room. Everything. He follows a step behind each footfall, too controlled, too even. "You're making this bigger than it is," he says. "You're spiraling." "Maybe." "Elena." His tone softens again, but I hear the strain beneath it. "Come sit. Let's talk." The room feels smaller when we reach it, the dim light pooling in the corners like shadows gathering to listen. I sit, but place the calendar face down beside me, keeping it within reach. Nathan lowers himself to the edge of the coffee table across from me, knees close to mine. Too close. He places his hand over mine, the one with the cut. I flinch. "You're hurt," he murmurs. "It's nothing." He rubs his thumb over my knuckle, brushing the sting. "Let me help." The gesture is tender. It is also a distraction. I pull my hand back slowly and watch the flicker of irritation cross his face before he buries it. "Elena, you need to tell me what's going on." His voice dips lower, more direct, less caring. "Because something is off with you." A chill sweeps through my gut. He's flipping the script, turning my certainty into doubt. I study him, the smoothness of his expression, the even cadence of his breath, the practiced concern, and the missing minute burns in my mind like a line of bright light cutting through fog. "Maybe something's off with both of us," I say quietly. His jaw tightens, just a little. I rise from the couch. "I'm going to bed." He stands too quickly. Elena, good night. Nathan. He watches me walk away, his breathing shifting in ways I can sense even without turning around. I close the bedroom door gently, but the sound behind it, the sound of his controlled exhale, tells me everything I need to know. The truth is slipping, and he feels it. The next afternoon, the apartment greets me with a stillness that feels rehearsed, as if the rooms have been told to hold their breath until Nathan returns. The lock resists for half a second when I turn my key, and when the door finally opens, the trembling key rattles in the lock with a metallic shiver that echoes down the hallway, a nervous sound as if even the metal senses something in the air. I step inside slowly, listening for movement. Nothing. The quiet is too clean, too arranged. I close the door behind me, letting my eyes adjust to the dim interior, where light from the window filters in through thin blinds and lands in cut lines across the kitchen counter. The apartment feels paused, frozen, in a moment I wasn't meant to witness. My breath hitches when I see the faint glow from the laptop on the counter. Its lid is slightly open, screen dim, but not off. A soft hum vibrates against the silence. I walk toward it, each step slow, cautious. The key in the lock stops trembling behind me. When I reach the counter, I hesitate before pushing the laptop open another inch. The brightness sharpens instantly, illuminating a single window on the screen, an email draft. I read the subject line first. Follow-up. My pulse kicks. I scroll, eyes narrowing at the small text near the bottom corner, draft saved at 18:32. My breath stops. At that exact time, Nathan told me he was in the car driving home from a job he claimed ran later than expected. He even detailed the traffic, the construction near Route 40, the unexpected slowdown, the way the sun hit the windshield. But he wasn't driving. He was here, writing this, draft saved 18:32. He lied. Again. The truth fractures inside me like a mirror struck from the edges. And then the reflection fractures when the timestamp fails. The laptop screen reflects my face in two broken angles where the shadows bend, slicing my image in half. The motif echoes through me, a split truth revealing its own fault line. I pull in a slow breath, pressing my fingertips lightly against the counter. The cut light line from the window slices across the laptop casing, illuminating the keys in a slanted glow that makes each letter look sharper, like a confession etched into metal. The room feels as if it's leaning toward me, urging me to read the email. I scroll. It's short. Too short. Just a few clipped sentences, vague references to meeting someone again, confirming details for a plan he shouldn't have been involved in. Nothing illegal. Nothing dramatic. Just wrong. Suspicious. Out of place. Conversations he didn't tell me about. People he shouldn't be coordinating with. Actions he didn't want me to know he was taking. Things he covered with tenderness and soft words and adjusted narratives. Details meant to seem harmless until they weren't. A distant click makes me freeze, the building door downstairs opening. Footsteps follow, steady and familiar. Nathan. I close the laptop quietly, leaving only the smallest sliver open so I can see the glow vanish. The trembling key in the lock feels like a warning. I take a step back. The footsteps grow clearer. Nathan climbs the stairs with his usual rhythm, even purposeful, the sound of a man who likes to control the timing of his entrances. I brace myself without looking like I am. The front door clicks again, this time from the outside, as his key slides in. The door opens. He steps inside and stops. He senses something. In the shift of the air, in the way I stand, in the faint glow dying on the laptop. "You're home early," he says carefully. I turn toward him, keeping my expression steady. "Yeah," I answer. "The hospital sent us home after a system outage." His eyes drift to the laptop, just for a second. But I see it. The flicker of recognition, the tightening in his jaw, the recalculating. "You okay?" he asks. "Mm-hmm. You look off." "Do I?" He steps closer, angle measured. "Elena, if something's wrong, nothing's wrong." I watch the lie land between us, mirroring the ones he's been placing slowly for weeks, maybe longer. He glances at the counter again, his expression smoothing into practiced calmness. "I was about to call you," he says. "See if you needed anything. I'm fine." His eyes shift not with concern, but with quiet fear, the kind that grows in someone who doesn't know how much of the truth you've seen. The room holds its breath. He reaches for the laptop, not to use it, to close it, fully, completely. I step aside, letting him. I don't need to stop him. The draft is already burned into my memory, the timestamp striking through the last threads of doubt. "Long day," he murmurs, "for both of us." "Yes," I say, and then I add, "Some things became clearer." His eyes lift to mine, searching for the shape of what I know. For the first time, he doesn't find it. His uncertainty pulses through the room like a shift in the air pressure before a storm, and I feel something inside me harden into resolve. Dusk settles over the hallway outside our apartment, the kind of thin gray light that makes everything look slightly unreal, like the world is holding its breath between day and night. I hear footsteps before I see anyone, slow, steady, deliberate. When I open the door, Damon stands just beyond the threshold. Hands tucked into the pockets of his jacket, the faint scent of dust and machine oil rising from him, the kind that lingers on someone who works in the building's maintenance shafts. He isn't smiling, but he isn't tense either. He looks like a man bringing information he wishes he didn't have to carry. Inside the apartment behind me, the half-open drawer in the entry table casts a thin, uneven shadow across the floor. I hadn't noticed it before, pulled out just enough to show disruption, not enough to seem intentional. A detail out of place, a window left cracked. Damon's eyes travel to it briefly, and I catch the flicker of recognition he sees it too. "Elena," he says quietly, nodding once. "Didn't mean to stop by unannounced. It's fine." I answer, though. The air in my chest moves strangely, tightening beneath my ribs. "Everything okay?" He glances over his shoulder as if checking whether anyone else is listening. "Wanted to talk to you for a moment. About last night." My pulse jumps. His tone is softer than usual, cautious. I open the door wider, letting him step inside, though I keep my back straight, bracing for something I'm not sure I'm ready to hear. Damon moves with an understated kind of care, every step calculated, so he doesn't intrude more than necessary. He stands near the entry table, eyes briefly lowering to the half-open drawer, before shifting back to me. "I saw something," he says. "Something I thought you should know." He hesitates, as if measuring the impact of what comes next. Wasn't sure if it was my place to say anything. My heart thuds once heavy. "Go on." "Last night," he continues slowly, "I got called to check the wiring in the third-floor hallway. The lights were flickering. The flickering. Of course. Another fracture in the timeline. While I was up there, I saw Nathan." The name lands like a dropped coin in a silent room. My fingers curl against my side, where Damon shifts his weight, near the east stairwell, moving fast. He looked, I don't know, like he didn't want to be seen. My stomach tightens. What time was this? He glances around the room, searching for the exact phrasing that keeps him honest without overstating. Close to 10, maybe a little after. My pulse freezes. The screenshot Marcy sent time-stamped 22:14, the lie Nathan told about being restless at home, the calendar missing its minute, and now Damon who has no reason to create a story, Damon who sees more than he says. There's more, he adds. He passed by hallway camera C4. "You know the one near the fire door?" I nod slowly. It's the camera that always clicks faintly when someone walks past it. The sound so subtle most people don't notice. "I checked it tonight," Damon continues. "Routine stuff, and I saw the feed from last night." He doesn't finish the sentence because he doesn't need to. The truth unfurls in the space between us like a slow, unraveling thread. Nathan passed that camera at the exact time he claimed he was home. The evidence is real, the contradiction complete, the lie exposed. The drawer beside us creaks softly, shifting half an inch, as if the wood itself reacts to the weight of Damon's words. Damon exhales, rubbing the back of his neck. "I wasn't going to say anything," he admits. "Didn't want to stir anything up. But after tonight, you looked shaken at the gathering. Figured you deserved to know." His voice carries no judgment, no accusation, only concern, tempered by restraint. A moderate warning, enough to acknowledge danger without igniting it. I swallow hard, my throat tightening. "Thank you," I say, though the words come out faint. Damon nods, looking toward the living room where the shadows stretch in long lines across the floorboards. "I don't know what's going on," he says, "but take care of yourself." "All right." His eyes meet mine, then steady, earnest, grounded in a quiet understanding of the things people hide behind their walls. "If you need anything, knock. Doesn't matter the hour." I nod again, unable to speak for a moment. He turns toward the door, but before he steps out, he pauses. For what it's worth, he adds, he didn't look like a man going for fresh air. He looked like someone covering tracks. The statement lands deep, sharp, unshakable. When Damon leaves, the door clicks shut behind him with a soft finality. I lean against it, breath trembling. The apartment feels different now, smaller, more full of the truth than it was 10 minutes ago. Nathan has crossed into something darker, something careful, something threaded with intention. The half-open drawer pulls my attention again. I kneel and gently slide it open the rest of the way. Inside, a mess of receipts, spare keys, and old chargers spills out disorganized in a way it hasn't been in months. Someone searched through this drawer quickly, recently, and not for nostalgia. I pull out a spare key, feeling its cold metal against my palm. The cut light from the window strikes it in a thin line that trembles when I breathe. Evidence is gathering all around me now, pieces assembling themselves. Nathan lied about where he was. He lied about what time he was gone. He lied about the bar. He lied about the night. And a witness saw him slip through the hallway like a man avoiding the truth. A man who didn't expect the camera to be checked. A man who didn't expect Damon to speak. A man who didn't expect me to know. My breath steadies. My mind clears. Something irreversible has begun. Night settles over the apartment in a slow, heavy gradient, the kind that creeps across the walls and sinks into corners like it's trying to hide something. I sit alone in the living room, the dim lamp glowing beside me, its soft amber circle barely pushing back the surrounding dark. The bulb hums, faintly warming the air just enough to make the shadows lean away from it in long, uneasy stretches. The lamp isn't bright, not really. It's the kind of muted glow that invites truth to surface quietly rather than burst into view. My fingers tremble just slightly as I smooth the edge of the bank slip lying across my knee. Bank slip number A51, flagged transaction, unusual activity. Time-stamped during the exact window Nathan insisted he was searching with me for my lost wallet. My pulse tightens. I stare at the numbers again as if the ink might rearrange itself into a version of reality that stings less. But the faded ink only deepens the truth. He withdrew money that night, more money than I thought he had access to, and he did it during a time he pretended he was comforting me. He lied with one hand on my shoulder and the other holding this slip in his pocket. The dim lamp flickers once, casting a shimmer across the paper like a breath moving through it. My heart clenches. The sound of Nathan opening the front door reaches me before the click of the lock does. I straighten, folding the slip and placing it under my palm. His footsteps approach a slow, uncertain cadence, not his usual confident stride. He pauses when he sees me in the low light. "Elena," he says, voice wrapped in an uneasy calm. "You're still up." I nod, couldn't sleep. He walks closer, scanning the room with that subtle way he has, checking for signs of conflict tension in my shoulders, the angle of my posture, the position of my hands, anything that might give away what he should fear. He's measuring the temperature before deciding how honest to be, or how dishonest he can get away with being. He glances at the lamp, then at me. "Why'd you turn off the overhead lights?" "They felt too harsh," I answer. He studies me carefully, eyes narrowing just a fraction. "You look tense." "Tired," I say. Something flickers behind his eyes. Doubt, concern, calculation all tangled into one expression he tries to smooth out before I can read it fully. He takes another cautious step forward, keeping his voice steady. "Look," he says softly, "everything's been stressful lately. Maybe we should talk." The hypocrisy almost tastes bitter. Talk. Like the truth is a burden he wants to help carry. "I agree," I say. He exhales, relieved. Good, because I think there have been misunderstandings and I know where you were, I interrupt. He freezes. Every muscle in his body still, shoulders locked, breath, suspended eyelids tightening in a way he can't control. The dim lamp flickers again. The truth feels like it lowers itself into the room, settling between us like a weight neither of us can ignore. What he asks too quickly. You weren't at home. Not that night. Elena. And you weren't helping me look for my wallet. My voice remains calm, almost emotionless. The clarity inside me feels cold but steady glass-like. He takes a step back almost imperceptibly. I don't know what you think you saw. It's not what I saw, I say, cutting him off. It's what I know. His eyes dart briefly toward the drawer where he'd left things misaligned, then toward the hallway, then toward the lamp, as if scanning for exits in a conversation that has none. What do you mean, he asks, voice lowering. I open my hand and reveal the bank slip. His face drains of blood. What is that, he whispers. You tell me. He swallows hard. Where did you get that? I let the silence answer for me. Elena. His voice cracks slightly. This isn't what it looks like. That excuse is getting tired, I reply. He steps forward with urgency, hands out as if trying to guide the conversation back into the script he's relied on. Just listen, okay, I can explain. You weren't home, I say again. You weren't where you said you were. You were withdrawing money, and you lied about it. That's not true. The timestamp says otherwise. He freezes for the second time. His chest rises and falls faster than before. His lips part like he wants to build another lie but can't decide which angle to take. His eyes flick toward the dim lamp, and the cut line of light stretches across his face, sharpening the edges of his expression. He looks different in this lighting, less polished, more exposed. Elena, please, he says, you're misunderstanding everything. No, I say quietly, I finally understand. He blinks. Once. Twice. His jaw tightens. His hands fall to his sides. He knows. He knows the moment has shifted, that the balance has tipped, that whatever power he thought he held is slipping. The dim lamp flickers again, but this time it stays steady. The light pools around us in a warm, muted circle that feels like a truth-telling space, small, inescapable, honest. Tell me where you were, I say. He hesitates. His breath shudders. Elena, I didn't mean. The words die on his tongue. Because we both know what comes next. The lie is dead. The truth has already risen. I stand slowly, the dim lamp's glow following my movement like a witness. I take a step forward, the bank slip between us like a blade of paper cutting through the last defense he had. Everything is clearer now, I say. And in the space between us, the atmosphere shifts sharp and undeniable. The reversal lands softly but irrevocably. Nathan isn't in control, I am. The dim lamp flickers once more, not in warning, but in recognition. A small, steady glow that settles into the moment like the quiet beginning of the truth. Morning arrives without warmth or mercy. A gray, muted sheet pulled over the city that makes every window pane look like frosted glass. I move quietly through the apartment, the events of last night replaying in the back of my mind, with a clarity that feels both sharp and exhausted. Nathan is still asleep, at least pretending to be lying too. Still too evenly like a man rehearsing calm rather than resting in it. I slip out of the bedroom before he can open his eyes and shape the morning with curated softness. The living room feels cooler than usual, shadows clinging to the walls like something unsettled. I pull open his work bag, a motion I've never done before, but now feels not only justified, but necessary. The zipper gives way with a low rasp. Inside, papers spill in disordered layers, receipts, pamphlets, half-crumpled schedules. But something else catches my attention. Before anything else, the faint, bitter smell of cigarette ash. Nathan doesn't smoke. Not since I've known him. Yet a thin streak of gray ash dusts the edge of a folder, like someone brushed against a habit he never told me he revisited. I pull the folder out slowly. Ash drifts from the corner and lands on my hand in a soft sprinkle that feels more accusing than accidental. My pulse tightens. I open the folder expecting mess. Instead, I find the opposite. Neatly stacked pages, clean lines, his workplace schedule, HR schedule, ref and Pizzo 7 stamped in small print across the top. My eyes trace the grid, searching for last night. For confirmation. For contradiction. It takes only seconds. There it is, circled faintly in pencil. A shift mismatch. A note that he was assigned off-site during the exact hours he claimed he was home. No overlap, no ambiguity, no possibility he misremembered. A perfect, clean contradiction. And just like that, the last illusions collapse quietly like a house that has been hollow for years, finally sinking into itself. I hear water running in the bathroom. Nathan is awake. I step back from the table, clutching the schedule in my hand, its paper edges digging into my skin as if trying to anchor me to the moment. The ash on my fingers leaves a pale smear when I wipe it against my thigh, and the smear feels symbolic, like an imprint of truths he tried to brush away before they could settle. The bathroom door opens. Nathan emerges with a towel draped over his shoulder. Hair damp expression alert beneath the illusion of calm. He senses the shift immediately. His eyes scan the room, then land on the paper in my hand. "What are you doing?" His voice is too calm, too rehearsed, and too late. "Looking," I answer. He studies my face with the intensity of someone calculating variables. "You went through my bag?" "Yes, Elena," he says, stepping closer. "That's not okay. Neither is lying." The sentence hits the air with a cold finality. His expression fractures not completely, but enough for something cold to seep through the cracks. "Give me that," he says quietly, reaching for the schedule. I pull it away before he can touch it. His eyes darken. "Why are you doing this?" he asks. "Why are you pretending you don't know what you've done?" I counter. The accusation hangs between us, steady and pointed. He stares at me for a long moment, jaw tightening so slowly it feels like watching a rope pulled taut. "You're twisting things," he finally says. "You always do this when you're stressed." The manipulation is delicate, almost artful. If I hadn't seen the evidence, if I hadn't held it in my hand, I might have doubted myself. But now the truth feels immovable. I lift the schedule between us. "This says you were assigned off-site. It's a mistake." And the ash I gesture to the folder. He looks at it, and something flickers in his eyes, a shadow of recognition he tries to swallow before it fully forms. "Someone must have used my bag," he says. "Why would anyone do that?" "Because—" He stops. The sentence withers. I step closer, the schedule page trembling slightly between my fingers. "Why were you out last night?" He exhales sharply like the question stings. "I told you. You lied. Again." His breath falters. "Elena." I checked the timestamp on the bank slip. I saw the email draft. Damon saw you near the stairwell. And now this, I say, lifting the schedule. How many versions of last night exist in your head? He presses his lips together, expression flattening into something I can't quite place. A mix of fear and retreat. "You're overreacting," he murmurs. "No," I say. "I'm finally reacting." The line shifts something inside him. A muscle ticks in his jaw. He steps closer and I feel his presence like a pressure moving into my space. He is trying to contain the conversation, trying to steer it, trying to control the outcome. "Give me the schedule," he says. The demand is soft but edged. "No." He inhales sharply, the veneer cracking completely for the first time. "Elena, you don't understand what you're—" "I understand enough." My voice is steady now, unshakable. "You weren't where you said you were. You lied about your shift. You lied about the bar. You lied about last night. And you're lying now." Silence swells between us, thick and unforgiving. His chest rises and falls faster. His eyes shift not in confusion, but in realization. He knows he's cornered. He knows the last thread holding his narrative together is snapping. He knows I'm not backing down. Not this time. He runs a hand through his damp hair, pacing once toward the window. The city outside is still gray, heavy with unspoken things. "So what now?" he asks finally. "You want to fight about this?" "No," I answer. "I want the truth." He looks over his shoulder. His expression is hard now, guarded. The version of him that pretends softness is gone. "The truth is complicated," he says. "No," I reply. "It's simple. You weren't home." He swallows, throat tightening. And what if I wasn't? The admission slithers into the room like smoke, thin, poisonous. The moment chills. Then everything changes, I say quietly. He steps closer, eyes narrowing as he studies me. "You're not leaving," he says not threateningly, but with the desperate certainty of someone trying to rewrite the future before it's spoken aloud. You don't get to decide that I answer. A beat of silence, then another. The tension feels like glass just before it shatters. Elena, he says finally, voice low, don't do anything stupid. I'm not, I say. I'm doing something honest. The words land with a weight that ripples through the room. He sees the shift, sees that the narrative has slipped completely beyond his grasp. I fold the schedule carefully, holding it like a final piece of a puzzle forming into clarity. And for the first time since all of this began, Nathan looks afraid of me. I sit on the edge of the bed long after Nathan has left the apartment, the morning light flat and gray as it presses through the blinds, stripping the room of warmth. The mirror shard rests in my hand, small, cold, dangerously honest. I kept it after the frame slipped last month when the glass cracked and rained onto the floor like brittle truth breaking loose from something pretending to stay whole. The shard fits between my fingers with a neat precision, its edge catching the weak light and drawing a thin, sharp beam across the comforter. A cut of illumination, a slice of reality, a reminder of how easily things fracture when pressure is applied in the right place. My phone sits beside me, screen black, waiting. I pick it up. My heart steadies. Audio clip ID R22, length 0111. The file Marcy sent last night without explanation, only saying, "You need to hear this." I tap play. His voice fills the room instantly. Nathan's voice, but not the version he uses with me. Not the softened register, not the carefully balanced concern, not the curated empathy. This version is stripped bare, raw, unaware he's being recorded. She believed it, he says. I told her the wallet must have slipped out. She's too distracted lately to question it. My breath stops. The recording continues with the quiet hum of bar chatter behind him, glasses clinking, someone laughing in the distance. He continues speaking in that too casual tone, the one people use only when they think their lies are safe in the dark. I needed the time, he continues. I had to get the money out. She can't know, not yet. So I staged the whole thing, made it look like she dropped it. She even thanked me for finding it. Something in me tightens, a slow, deliberate constriction that feels like a wound stitching itself closed without permission. My fingers grip the mirror shard tighter, the cold glass digging into my palm. He laughs then, a low, careless sound that cuts sharper than the shard. She never notices the details, he says. She sees what she wants to see. I just help guide it along. I inhale once, shaky and shallow, but I don't stop the recording. Once the transfer clears, he adds, I'll tell her something came up at work. She buys that sort of thing, always has. I just need a few more days without her asking too many questions. My pulse bangs against my ribs, a steady, deafening beat. Then someone off mic asks in the cache. Nathan replies, hidden. She won't find it. She never looks in the obvious places. The recording ends with a faint scrape, maybe a chair moving, followed by the thump of the phone hitting a table. Then silence. The room feels colder than before. My reflection in the shard trembles slightly with the movement of my hand. It looks unfamiliar, sharper, sterner, someone stripped down to the bone by truth. The shard's beam crosses my cheek, a thin line of light, marking the moment everything changes. I replay the last sentence in my mind. Hidden, obvious places. My stomach drops into sudden clarity. I stand, slowly. The apartment is quiet, except for the faint ticking of a heating pipe settling in the wall. I walk to the living room with the shard still in my hand, its smooth edge sliding against my skin like a reminder to stay awake. Stay present. Stay sharp. I scan the room. The obvious places. The drawer he left half open. The bowl on the entry table. The gaps between books on the shelf. Places disguised as innocuous. I kneel by the drawer, first sliding it open. Receipts, loose batteries, broken headphones. Nothing new. Nothing fresh. Nothing dangerous. Next, the shelf. I run my fingers across the row of books, feeling for uneven spines. One stops me. A travel guide we haven't touched in years. I pull it out. Something shifts inside. A folded envelope tucked between pages. My pulse climbs. I open it carefully. Cash, thick, crisp, more than 4 withdrawals could justify. Alongside it, another slip. Bank slip, number A51's partner. Another flagged transaction with a different timestamp. Earlier. Hidden in plain sight. The mirror shard shakes slightly between my fingers. Not from fear, but from the tremor of everything aligning, every contradiction, every lie, every shift in his voice, every late-night explanation, every flicker of caution in his eyes. I stand as the front door opens. Nathan steps inside. He freezes when he sees me standing in the center of the room with the envelope in my hand. His face drains of color, draining in a slow, horrifying way that tells me everything I need to know about his awareness. His eyes flick from the envelope to the shard to my expression. Elena, he says, carefully closing the door behind him with exaggerated gentleness. Whatever you found, stop talking. My voice leaves me calm, cold, clear. He steps forward, hands lifted slightly, not in surrender but in persuasion. Manipulation disguised as concern. Please, let me explain. You already did. I lift my phone. 1 minute and 11 seconds of explanation. His pupils shrink. You listened to it, he whispers. I heard everything. His jaw tightens. His breath catches. The last of his defensive strategies flicker across his face. Apology, denial, confusion, blame, but none land. None work. Not anymore. I didn't mean it, he says finally. You have to believe me. I don't, I say. Not anymore. He takes another step toward me. Elena, please. Stay back. The mirror shard catches the light. Then one clean, decisive line, illuminating the space between us, slicing through the fog of his excuses. He notices it. And the fear in his eyes turns real. Not fear of me, fear of losing control, fear of the truth leaving the room with me. Elena, he says softly, don't do anything rash. I'm not, I answer. For the first time, I'm doing something right. The room shifts, his posture collapses. He sees it, really sees it, that the narrative is no longer his to hold. I place the envelope on the table. I put the shard down gently. I lift the phone with the recording. This ends now, I say, and the truth lands between us with a finality he can't outrun. Rain begins the moment I step outside, a thin drizzle at first, then a steadier fall that clings to everything it touches. The walkway glistens beneath the building's security lights, turning the concrete into a sheet of dull silver. I pull my hood up, but the air is already damp enough that the cold sinks straight through the fabric, settling against my skin. Behind me, the apartment door creaks open again, and I hear Nathan follow his footsteps softened by the rain and the weight of something he no longer knows how to control. When I glance back, his coat sleeve is already darkened by the water, rain-wet and heavy, clinging to his arm, with an insistence that looks strangely accusatory. He doesn't speak at first. He just follows, keeping a distance of a few feet, as though unsure whether approaching me will make things better or worse. Elena, he finally says, voice low, nearly lost under the rain's whisper. Where are you going? I don't answer. The hallway inside the building feels too small for this, too saturated with the echoes of lies and half-admissions and the sharp fear that followed the audio recording. I need witnesses now. I need clarity spoken outside our walls. I need him to feel the weight of the truth in a space he can't rearrange. I lift my hand and knock on Damon's door. The sound is soft at first, then firmer. The rain outside patters faster, filling the dim stairwell, with a rhythm that almost feels like a heartbeat. Nathan's breath catches behind me. He realizes where I'm going, what I'm doing. His voice thins. Elena, don't. Damon opens the door before he can finish the sentence. He stands there wearing a gray t-shirt and loose pants, hair slightly mussed, eyes widening just enough to show his surprise, but not enough to look startled. He takes in the scene quickly, me soaked at the edges, spine stiff with resolve. Nathan behind me tense and breathing too fast, the charged silence hanging between us. Elena, Damon says slowly, everything all right? No, I say, and the honesty steadies me. Damon steps aside instantly. Come in. I move past him, careful, controlled. Nathan follows, but stops at the threshold, hovering on the edge, as though unsure whether he's allowed inside. Damon notices. His gaze sharpens for a moment, politely but unmistakably. You too, he says. If you're involved, you should hear this. Nathan swallows hard and steps in, but the rain-wet sleeve drags water onto the floor, dark droplets marking a path behind him like a trail he can't erase. Inside, the apartment feels grounded, warm, lived-in, honest. No sharp corners, no controlled lighting, just reality, exactly what I need. Damon gestures for us to sit, but none of us moves toward the couch. Instead, I stand in the small open space between the living room and kitchen. I reach into my pocket and pull out my phone. I have something to play, I say. Nathan closes his eyes for a moment, just one beat of time, as if imagining if there's still a way out, or imagining the moment he first lost control of the narrative. Damon watches him carefully but doesn't comment. I press play. The room fills with Nathan's voice, recorded, unfiltered, undisguised. She believed it. I told her the wallet must have slipped out. Nathan tenses. His lips part with a silent inhale, his body curling inward almost imperceptibly, as if each word strikes him physically. I needed the time. Had to get the money out. She can't know, not yet. Damon's jaw hardens. His eyes flick toward Nathan, not with anger, but with something sharper: recognition, confirmation, the kind of clarity that can't be undone. She never notices the details. I just help guide it along. The recording ends. Silence swells into the room, thick, heavy, impossible to soften. The rain outside intensifies, drumming against the window like a quiet judgment. Nathan finally exhales a shaking, uneven breath. He looks smaller now, not physically, but in presence. The certainty he relied on has collapsed. Damon waits, giving him the chance to speak first. I didn't mean, Nathan begins. No, I say, cutting through the room's stillness. Stop! He freezes. And for the first time, he actually listens. You manipulated me, I continue. You lied. You staged things. You built narratives and fed them to me with a smile. And you did it knowing I trusted you. Nathan's eyes lower. Rainwater drips from his sleeve onto the floor. Elena, his voice cracks. I was overwhelmed. Things were spiraling. I didn't know how to fix it. So you lied, I ask, repeatedly. He swallows. I thought I could put everything back together before it mattered. Damon shifts his weight, leaning against the edge of the counter, arms crossed, watching with the steady patience of someone trained to observe. You understand how this sounds, right? He asks Nathan. How it looks. Nathan doesn't respond. His breathing stutters. His sleeves hang heavy with rain. I lift the envelope with the hidden cash, place it on Damon's table. He withdrew money, hid it, lied about where he was, lied about helping me search, lied about nearly everything. Damon nods once slowly, as if confirming a conclusion he already suspected. And I saw him last night. He wasn't out for air. Nathan looks at Damon sharply, worry slicing across his face. You don't understand. I understand enough, Damon replies, voice steady. She deserves better than this. Nathan's throat tightens. I was going to fix it, he whispers. I look at him. Truly look. The man I married still stands there, but he feels distant, wrapped in layers of deceit he wove around himself and expected me to keep warm in. No, I say softly. You were going to hide it. He closes his eyes, and a tremor runs through him, not of fear, but of collapse. The truth has stripped away the practiced calm, the careful reasoning, leaving only the hollow center of what he really did. I step back slightly, letting my breath settle. I'm leaving tonight, I say. I'll pack my things, take the evidence with me, and call someone to help arrange the rest. Nathan's head jerks up, eyes wide. Elena, you don't get to stop me, I say. Damon steps closer, not threateningly, but with enough presence that Nathan's shoulders sag. I'll walk her back, Damon says. Make sure everything stays calm. Nathan looks between us, me, Damon. The evidence on the table, the truth hanging heavy in the rain. Something inside him shatters. Not loudly, not violently, quietly, like a glass slipping off a shelf and breaking in the softest possible way. He nods, just once, defeated. The rain-wet sleeve hangs limp against his arm. His voice shrinks, and the payoff lands quiet, sharp, absolute. The truth has stripped him bare. I walk back to our apartment with Damon beside me, the rain easing into a soft sprinkle that beads along the railing and gathers on my sleeves in delicate droplets. The hallway lights hum faintly overhead, washing the corridor in pale gold. When Damon pauses outside his door, he gives me a small nod. Steady, unintrusive, a quiet assurance that the world won't tilt unexpectedly while I'm inside gathering the last threads of my life here. If you need anything, he says, knock. I nod, offering him a grateful smile that feels strange on my face after the weight of the past few days. I will. I answer. When he closes his door, the hallway settles into a muted calm. I stand there a moment longer, breathing in the grounded stillness. The apartment door stands ahead of me, neither threatening nor welcoming, just a door now, not a threshold into lies I must sift through. I pull in a breath and step inside. The air is different, lighter maybe, or maybe I've changed enough to feel the shift. Nathan is in the living room, sitting on the edge of the couch with his head in his hands. He doesn't get up when I enter. The tension that used to spring between us like a taut wire is gone. What remains is quiet, defeat, acceptance. He lifts his head slowly, eyes rimmed with exhaustion. "Elena," he murmurs, voice worn thin. "I didn't want it to end like this." The words hang in the air like the last drops of a storm that's finally run out of energy. I meet his gaze without flinching. "It didn't have to," I say. "But you made choices, and now I'm making mine." He nods, swallowing hard. There's no anger left in him, no protests, no desperate rally to reclaim a narrative he's lost the grip on. Only the understanding that the consequences have finally stepped into the room, unfiltered and unsoftened. I gather my things slowly, methodically. A sweater draped over the chair, a charger from beside the nightstand, a picture frame from the dresser. The movements feel steady, almost peaceful, like unpacking my life from a fog I didn't realize had become permanent. Nathan watches in silence, hands clasped, shoulders slumped forward. At one point he stands, taking 2 steps toward me as though he wants to speak. But when he opens his mouth, nothing comes. Whatever argument he meant to make dissolves under the weight of evidence truth and the hollow space where trust used to sit. "I'm sorry," he whispers. It's quiet. Real, maybe. But real doesn't undo anything. I pause in the doorway with my bag slung over my shoulder. For the first time in days, I feel completely present. "Take care of yourself," I say. It's the only kindness I can offer, and the only one that feels honest. He nods once, pressing the heel of his palm against his eyes. I leave the apartment without looking back. When the door closes behind me, the soft click feels like a page turning, not ripped, not burned, just turned. Transition, not violence. Change, not erasure. I walk down the hallway, each step sounding more grounded than the last. The building is quiet, the rain outside easing into a gentle mist that presses softly against the windows. I reach the front entrance and push the door open. Cool air wraps around me, fresh and clean. The city hums faintly in the distance, cars moving slowly along wet roads, a dog barking 2 blocks over, someone laughing on a nearby porch. Life continuing with no knowledge of the storm I've just walked through. I pause on the stoop and pull out my phone. The screen lights up, and the phone's glow casts a soft reflection across my cheek, a warm, gentle beam that feels like a hand on my shoulder. The reflection holds steady now, not warped, not trembling. Steady, true. I breathe in deeply, letting the cool air settle in my lungs, and scroll through the messages that have accumulated. A new one from Marcy. "You okay? Want to talk?" Another from Damon. "Just checking in. Doors open." I type back slowly, carefully. "I'm okay. Really." And for the first time, the words feel real in my bones. I tuck the phone into my pocket, step down from the stoop, and start walking, not toward a destination, but toward space, toward stillness, toward whatever comes next. The rain-wet pavement shines beneath the streetlights, and my footsteps echo softly in the quiet night. I walk slowly, letting the world settle around me. The fear is gone. The second-guessing is gone. The confusion is gone. What remains is clarity, the kind that feels earned, not granted, the kind that stays. The phone light brushes my cheek again when I check the time, its glow warm rather than cold. The reflection doesn't tremble. It holds steady,